So hello everybody. I am so happy to be here. I have missed you so much. And I was looking at my calendar to see how long it had been since I've been here, and it's been about 2 years. And that doesn't quite seem possible, but I'm just so happy to be back. And I want to thank Reverend Neil for inviting me to join you today via Zoom and all this technology. And as annoying as it can be sometimes while we're learning and on that learning curve, it is a blessing to be able to reach out and touch each other and be together this way. So today, as I said, we're talking about the theme for May for you, which is curiosity. So we're going to talk some more about that today. And this topic is particularly important to me because I have just recently, over the last couple of years, realized how important it is. I really wasn't, I used to say frequently, I'm really not very curious. And I know that some of you might think that doesn't seem quite right. I would think Betty would be a very curious, but I really wasn't. And I'll talk to you a little more about how that happened. It wasn't an accident, it was cultivated. But practicing being curious is important for us. It will assist us in growing in our spiritual life. And that's what I feel that has happened to me. I feel that not only have I grown in my spiritual life and my relationships and my coaching work as well, it's been especially useful in making my life more fun and more interesting and almost never boring. And I actually believe that curiosity can be the cure for many of the common problems and obstacles and challenges that we deal with in our daily lives. Things like fear and unforgiveness, and even the perceived limitations of getting old. So while preparing for this talk on curiosity, I ran across an article by Todd Kashdan. And Todd Kashdan, PhD, is a clinical associate psychologist and professor of psychology at George Mason University. Long title. But he has wrote a book from which this article came called Curiosity: Discover the Missing Ingredient in a Fulfilling Life. And since I'd already come to believe that I had just recently had a very big shift in my life because of a greater focus on curiosity, it really interested me, this book. So a lot of information I'll be sharing with you today is based on ideas that I gleaned from this article and book. If you ask most people what they want most in life, a majority of them would answer happiness. But the truth is that all the social and economic and technological progress that we've made over the past 50 years, and it's been a lot. But all of that has not necessarily changed our quality of life for the better. We often focus most on what we think will make us happy, but end up doing things that don't really bring much meaning to our lives, like doing uninteresting, boring work, or running errands, or watching too much TV, these decompression things we do, like watching a lot of TV, eating a lot of snacks, and maybe just doing nothing. The truth is, until very recently, and I mean like the last 2 months, the majority of Americans spent less than 20% of each day doing what could be called very engaging or enjoyable or meaningful activity. Things like talking with friends and bonding with loved ones, or creating, playing, pursuing a spiritual practice, those kinds of things. But if we're willing to bring some elements of surprise into our life, it doesn't have to be this way. I think a lot of us have noticed that over the last 2 months, while we've been being asked to stay at home, that we've been creative, we've been more creative, or we've done a lot of those things that we just never got around to before. I know for me, it isn't that much different. I live alone and I work out of my home office. And so I'm here a lot, and I enjoy being having some private time. But I'm telling you, after about 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, I was missing people. I remembered how when I'm in the grocery store, if somebody's standing next to me and I have a thought or an amusing thought, I just talk to them. Well, there was just no doing that anymore. You couldn't. It's something about the psychology of having the ability to just go wherever you want, do whatever you want, feels great even when you don't do it. And suddenly you can't, and it's a little distressing to get used to. So I think we've all learned that we have to do things a little differently when we're forced to stay home. And it wasn't all bad. People were doing things with their family. People were actually stopping looking at screens. The kids were actually playing games with the parents, things that people haven't done in years. That part of it I really liked. I really liked seeing that. So if you're willing to just reach out and bring some new, refreshing things into your life, it doesn't have to feel like you're just spending most of your time doing things you just have to do and not particularly what makes your life a happy life. The truth is we're always either expanding or contracting, one or the other. We never just sit there, and I'm talking about our inner selves. We never just sit there and stay the way we are. We're either contracting or expanding. And the road to happiness is certainly the expansion part. So curiosity is a state of active interest or genuinely wanting to know more about something. And it creates an openness to unfamiliar experiences and lays the groundwork for greater opportunities for discovery and joy and delight. So I need to take a brief breath here and just tell you, my screen is telling me that I have an unstable internet connection. So if I disappear, I will be right back. So I'll just come right back. I'm just telling you in case. Hopefully it won't come to that. So anyway, we're always expanding or contracting, as I said. Curiosity is a state of active interest or genuinely wanting to know more about something. It creates an openness to unfamiliar experiences, and it lays the groundwork for greater opportunities for discovery, joy, and delight. Curiosity can actually be nurtured and developed. It isn't just magic. We can actually grow curiosity. And with practice, we can use the power of curiosity to transform everyday tasks into interesting experiences. Imagine that. We can also use curiosity to intentionally create wonder and play out, and out of almost any situation, we can have an experience of playing or interaction. It all starts with wanting to know more, and we can actually be in this frame of mind for our entire lives. So some of you may remember my favorite Unity author and teacher, Eric Butterworth. In his essay called Live Forever and Enjoy It, Butterworth said, "This day you are young or old according to your thought." When we're curious, we see things differently. We use our powers of observation more fully, and we sense what is happening in the present moment. We can't be curious in the past. We can't be curious in the future. We can only be curious right now because it takes observation, and that only happens in the present moment. So when we're curious, we feel alive and engaged and more capable of embracing our opportunities and even seeing them. If we're not curious, we're not likely to even see those opportunities when they pop up. And we start to experience moments of insight and meaning when we become curious. So according to Cashton, there are 5 important ways that curiosity enhances our well-being and the quality of our lives. And the first one he talks about is health. Studies have shown that there are promising signs that using your curiosity reduces the risk for cancer and cardiovascular disease and may even reverse some of the natural degeneration that occurs in older adults. In that same essay on enjoying life, Butterworth gives us a hint about how to be excited about what we're doing. He says, make a career of youthfulness through a persistent curiosity about the why of things and a relentless quest for knowledge of yourself and the world in which you live. Your mind will continue to expand if you provide it with a constant flow of challenges. When you stop learning, you begin to grow old, he says. So when I was speaking here in previous times, I got to know some of you a little bit, and I know that there are some pretty curious people at Unity Pace. And I don't mean curious as in odd, I mean people who are curious. And these people are definitely much younger than their chronological ages. So what's the key to an ongoing happy life, or at least one key? Don't stop being curious. How else does curiosity change the quality of our lives for the better? Studies have shown that high levels of curiosity contribute to greater analytic ability, problem-solving skills, and overall intelligence. In other words, it makes you smarter. And who doesn't want more of that? How else does it help our quality of life? It helps our relationships. Curiosity contributes to better relationships of all kinds. There's a Bible quote in Proverbs 3:13. Happy are those who find wisdom, those who gain understanding. I mentioned earlier that I had a positive shift recently in my life, and that I believe I owe a lot of it to becoming more aware of the importance of curiosity. It's often true that when we're younger, when we're children, we gather a lot of the values that are taught us from those who raised us. And in my home as a child, there was a high value placed upon not being too curious, not asking a lot of questions, and not getting into other people's business or being intrusive. I seem to have carried around that idea of not being intrusive for quite a while. And I learned this lesson well. I can't say that it caused me to not have questions, because I had plenty of them. But it caused me to keep them to myself. And unfortunately, what this did was to lead me to stifle my positive curiosity about others. And I attribute it to my effort to avoid gossip, which I considered to be a really good thing. But in reality, it kept me from getting to know people better at all, and from cultivating deeper relationships along the way. And people really, I would have this experience a lot, and I started noticing it a few years ago, that people would think I knew things about them that I didn't. They would just assume it. And the truth is, I really didn't, because I never asked the next question. So a couple of years ago, when I was going through my training to be certified as a life coach, the instructor presented a unit on curiosity and how important it is for a coach. And at exactly the same time period, I was just coming through a period of grief and adjustment after losing my best friend for 45 years, my only brother, and several other people in my life who were support to me in about 11 months' time. It was really a lot in a short time. And it literally left me with no one who knew me during my lifetime. I mean, who knew like my whole life experience. There was no one there anymore. And that was just a profound feeling for me. And it's not unusual as we get older, these things happen more and more frequently. But it was new for me. And I had lived alone for many years, but I never had felt particularly lonely. And I was feeling really lonely. So somewhere along that process, I realized I need a new tribe. I have to build a new tribe. So when I came upon this idea that you really have to be curious, you have to ask the next question, it worked for both of my goals: to be a good, helpful coach, serving my clients well, and a good friend and loved one, and someone who can be there for you and have them be there for me. I was just going to have to get curious. So it was kind of work for me at first, but I learned how to ask the next question, and then the next question, and get to know people. And what I realized was my not asking was presenting them with the idea that I just didn't really care about them, because I would never go exploring ever. So that's why it was such a big shift for me. And it really changed a lot. So we need to ask some good, caring, non-judgmental questions. And above all, listen very carefully. The fourth area in which a curious spirit enhances our lives is by calming the anxious mind. Castron says that growing as a person is a foundational component of a happy life, which is supported by curiosity. And Ralph Waldo Emerson said, do not be too timid and squeamish about your actions. All life is an experiment. The more experiments you make, the better. What if they are a little coarse and you may get your coat soiled or torn? What if you do fail and get fairly rolled in the dirt once or twice? Up again, you shall never be so afraid of a tumble. So curiosity is an antidote for anxiety. And finally, the fifth life enhancement that comes from being curious is meaning, a meaningful life. Joseph Campbell famously said, follow your bliss. And he also said, if you can see your path laid out in front of you step by step, you know it's not your path. Your path, your own path, you make with every step you take. That's why it's your path. In other words, you make your path, you make your journey with every curious step you make. The more curiosity you can muster for something, the more likely you are to notice and learn about it, and therefore, the more interesting and meaningful it will become for you over time. This is true of people, books, sports, skills, and conversations. Often, the more curiosity and energy we invest, the more compelling they become. But is there a darker side to curiosity? Well, sure. Just like most things and ideas in life, we human beings are capable of turning almost anything into a negative just with our thoughts and sheer will. But in the case of curiosity, what we've been talking about today is not these things that could show up as obsession, dangerous thrill-seeking, or detrimental gossip, for example. But this is the kind of curiosity that comes from our inner self, the best expression of our inner self, the highest and best of our internal being. It's meant to create our very best life for as long as we live. We have to seek our true spirit within and tune in to our curiosity. So when you're feeling unforgiving, seek knowledge and understanding. Be curious. It's more difficult to exist in a state of unforgiveness when you're seeking understanding. Learn to thrive on uncertainty. That's kind of an odd comment, right? But I know from experience, I learned long ago that my source, my God, does not want me to be unhappy. In fact, my God wants me to be really happy all the time. So whenever I find myself in a state or a place of unhappiness for any length of time, I have to take a good look at that. And if I can't find any way through or out of that space, then it's time to move along. And sometimes when it's time to move along, we don't really know what's next, but it's still time to go. And it's not always easy to make that decision. If you go, what if I wait until this or that? Because there are always pros and cons to every situation, and you may not really like giving up the pros. But the truth is, if you can learn to thrive on uncertainty and live in a place where you're not totally in your comfort zone, that's when it gets interesting. You can look for the excitement in something new, or even if you don't land right away in that ultimate wonderful next thing, the steps between can be pretty darn interesting. So learning about the new and different things, that can just be fun all in itself. And listening intently to someone totally different from you can be a really great experience. So we need to connect and reconnect with people, and we need to do it with a sense of humor. We need to lighten up. We need to be ready for something fun and wonderful. We need to play more. We need to see the joy in our life. So just think what would happen if you applied this curiosity state of mind to spending some time with someone you think you don't like. And I say think you don't like because the truth is, frequently we have a first impression or a first or second impression of someone. We go, this is not really the kind of person I want to spend a lot of time with. And I'm sure that's true, but the thing is, once we do that, we're done with them. And no matter how often we see them, it could even be somebody at church, no matter how often we see them, we'll never take that next step or ask that next question. So I would like for you to think about that. And I'd like to give you a little piece of homework for this week. So if you can do that with a person, that's just all the better. But I want you to take one of the dislikes, things you would call things that are low on your like list in your life. Pick one of them. It can be anything. For me, it would probably be washing dishes by hand rather than in the dishwasher. For you, it might be eating broccoli. I have no idea what it is. It can be anything. Commit to spend a few minutes with that thing. 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, however long it takes. And observe that thing or person or whatever it is and find 3 interesting new things about it that you hadn't really realized before. It will really tell you not only a lot about it or them, it will also tell you a lot about you. So I encourage you to start looking at curiosity as a new spiritual practice. Seeing things with fresh eyes. Here are some examples of questions you can ask yourself and be more curious about you. And start taking a more curious look at the things in your life. First, why don't I do the things I know I should be doing? I know in Unity a lot we talk about stop thinking about the shoulds. But in this case, I want you to. There are things we think we should. I mean, you can tell me all you want, don't think about the shoulds, but there are things I think I should do. So this question is, why don't I do the things I know I should be doing? Second one is, what don't I know that I don't know? I love this question. This is a great question. What do I know that I don't know? Third, if I achieved all of my life's goals, how would I feel? And how can I feel that way all along the journey of doing that? Fourth, if I weren't scared, what would I do? And fifth, what do I want my life to be in 5 years? And there are endless other curiosity-laden questions you can ask yourself and others. I got these by Googling curiosity. So go online and look for some more questions if you want to keep going down that path. And then when you're through asking your questions to yourself, try asking them to someone else and see what you learn about them, and also even more about yourself. So ask new questions, being really interested in the answers, and listen intently to the people in your life. And I believe you will grow more spiritually every day by being more curious. And you will come to know just how healing this curiosity cure can be. Thank you.